President Corporate Services, and Laura Strand, who's our communications advisor. If you ever need to speak to somebody at the port, any of the three of us would be very happy to answer your questions or a call. I'd like to begin by giving you just an overview of what our jurisdiction is at the Port of Vancouver. Our jurisdiction is outlined in the hatched area in the map shown here. It includes Burrard Inlet, Indian Arm, and right up to Port Moody, and also all the way down, as you can see, to the international border. And within this area, there are two ports in the Fraser River. There is the Fraser River Port Authority, the North Fraser Port Authority, which is on the North Arm, and of course ourselves. Earlier this year, the three ports were invited by the Minister of Transport to explore opportunities that would allow us to become more globally competitive and to capture a larger share of the growing trade with the Asia Pacific. On the 27th of November, the boards of directors of each port ratified the report, and it's now been sent to the Federal Minister of Transport for his review. As the process of amalgamation unfolds, we will sure to communicate any developments to this community. Under our governance, we have nine board members who govern the port. And of interest to you, particular interest to you is probably the fact that there is one appointment from the municipalities to a seat on our board. And the seat was most recently held by Marlon Baker, the former mayor of the District of North Van, and an active and loyal participant in municipal government on the North Shore for many, many years. Sadly, Marlon passed away on the 28th of October following a very courageous battle with cancer. The Board of VPA is a policy board and delegates all operating and administrative decisions to the CEO. And while we are an agent of the Crown, we operate at arm's length from government exactly as a private company would. VPA administers federal port property and earns revenue from leasing out those assets to private terminal operator. In other words, we do not operate the Port of Vancouver, we administer it. Unlike our competition south of the border, VPA does not have access to property tax revenues. In fact, as you're aware, our terminals pay property taxes to local governments. VPA is financially self-sufficient and reinvests all profits back into the port. While we act as an administrator, it is also as a leader in terms of advocating for initiatives that will enhance the port in the best economic, environmental and social interests of Canada. These numbers clearly demonstrate the economic importance of the Port of Vancouver to all Canadians, but these are just the beginning. Our mission is to lead the sustainable growth of cargo and passengers through Canada's Pacific Gateway in the best interest of all Canadians. As we go about doing that, we are guided by our vision to be the port of choice on the west coast of North America and by our values focused on customers, environment, financial health, people and reputation. Faced with growth in international trade unlike anything we have ever seen before, VPA is committed to leading port communities in capitalising on the opportunities that lie before us. In exercising leadership, we're going to do it within a framework that takes into account the economic, environmental and social sustainability of our business and that of our operating communities. For some time now, a hallmark of our environmental efforts at VPA has been going above and beyond philosophy. We have taken the lead in the remediation of contaminated properties, and last year we invested over $1 million in site cleanup. Through our own environmental review process, we assess environmental impacts that may arise from our tenants' activities. And though they are required to comply with government regulations, we encourage them to go further, optimising their environmental plans to exceed those minimum standards. We also set standards that go above and beyond. For example, 8 years ago, we partnered with the Chamber of Shipping to implement a ballast water exchange program that requires ships to exchange ballast in mid-ocean. This prevents the introduction of non-native species, and although not a requirement in Canada, it is an important way of protecting our marine environment. Our integrated air emissions program is designed to reduce air emissions from all sources related to the Port of Vancouver, including ships, terminal equipment, trucks and rail. In April 2007, we will introduce a new harbour dues program that will reward ships that exceed minimum standards in managing their air emissions. Ships that burn cleaner fuel will pay less when they enter our waters than those that merely meet the regulations. We are assessing the feasibility of shore-based power locally and researching its use for cruise ships. We're also studying ways to implement shore-based power in other areas of the port. We're investing in a seawater scrubbing technology pilot program that the Holland America cruise line will use to reduce particulate and SO2 emissions from cruise ships as early as next year. And I could provide many, many more examples of our leadership in environmental stewardship, but locally and internationally. But in the interest of time here tonight, I just invite you to look at our website, which has a specific section on the environment. Social sustainability is a very strong area that we are involved in. Building stronger communities clearly is something that needs to happen in an industrial area like a port. We make a significant contribution to the well-being of many Canadians. As part of our commitment to social sustainability and building stronger communities, the $763 million in tax revenue that the ports generate help support everything from hospitals to highways. We know that the majority of these tax revenues accrue to the federal and provincial government and not to the municipalities. And that's why we fully support the province's Pacific Gateway strategy, which includes as one of its action items the development of a port system competitiveness policy. A key focus of this policy would be to create a stronger partnership between the port system and the provincial and local governments, including opportunities to share in the wealth generated from future growth. In addition, we support the development of a property tax system that gives municipalities and industry the certainty that both require. BPA manages an active community investment program based on the three pillars of education, community and environment. Community investment initiatives are targeted at three broad geographical areas, one of which is the North Shore. Whether engaged in our Partners in Education scholarship program for high school and post-secondary students, our leadership program awarding top grade 10 and 11 youth our long-time involvement with the United Way, or our sponsorship and donations to a number of community events and activities that touch all of our port communities, we are committed to being part of the community we serve. The Port's community relations team and our mascot are well known at community events throughout the Lower Mainland, and we support many local charitable organisations. Opportunities to meet with North Shore municipal governments are very important to us. In order to open the lines of communications with local government, I have asked the members of my executive team to take on a liaison role with each of our surrounding councils. In the District of Westvan, I have asked Laurie, a resident here, to take on that role. So please do not hesitate to get in touch with Laurie if there's something you require or would like to bring something to our attention. There's a lot more to the Port of Vancouver than we can fit into a presentation like this, and because opportunities to connect are very important to the establishment and maintenance of our social licence, we are currently developing a community engagement program to help us do this. The program will consist of industry and municipal government engagement initiatives, infrastructure investment initiatives, and community action and dialogue initiatives. As we move forward to the development of this program, we will be working with all our communities to identify engagement activities that best address mutual port and community needs. So I'd like to thank you very much for allowing us this time to make this presentation. And if you have any questions, Your Worship, Council, I would be happy to answer them if I can.
Thank you very much. Councillor Safford.
A couple of points. All the ships that are out in the harbour out here, some of them as many as 9, 10, 11, or 12. Two things. Do they pay you or you pay them? And do they contain all their emissions, including emissions that would come from running their engines in these waters for a long length of time?
The ships anchored out in English Bay, it's the ones in English Bay that you're talking about,
yes.
Councillor. The ships anchored out in English Bay are usually waiting to come in and load cargo. They pay us to come into the harbour. It's harbour dues. It's a form of levy that they pay us to enter the Port of Vancouver. There's no charge to anchor out there. If they came into the port and tied up, they would pay exactly the same amount. So it's a free anchorage. We don't charge for it. The emissions, 90% of the emissions are kept on board. The one area where we are working, as I said, is in air emissions coming out the smokestacks. And that's the work we're doing with fuel additives and that scrubbing system that I talked about. The engine, the cooling water system, comes out the harbour, round the engine, back into the water. exactly like your car does. The water doesn't get contaminated with oil, it's just water. So that's how it works.
Why are there so many out there sitting, waiting?
Oh, well, some days there are 9, some days there are 0. So it's just part of the way the port operates. Most of the ships there are either grain and occasionally a coal ship. And the business of grain moving through this port is very, very complicated. We ship about 43 different grades of grain through the Port of Vancouver. And assembling those into 40,000-ton parcels or 20,000-ton parcels can be quite logistically challenging. And a terminal only holds about 5,000 tons. So it's a real logistics challenge trying to get the amount of cargo for the ship. And that takes some time, and that's why they anchor.
The second point, not critiquing you, it sounds like you're moving ahead in a lot of areas in the inner harbor. My concern is, are you moving along in leading-edge environmental technology in relationship to clean air and clean water inside the harbor? Not just mitigating, but moving, being number one in the world. Hard thing to do because it's costly, I'm sure, but serious decision-making on your part.
It is very expensive. You're absolutely right. We are leaders, certainly in North America, in this. We're trying to get the west coast of North America established as a SECA, a sulfur emissions control area, and that's directly related to the fuel that the ships burn. That would reduce the noxious emissions by about 50% if we could get that done.
When?
So it's a worthwhile challenge.
When?
All right. Unfortunately, international traffic with ships is a United Nations issue through the IMO, the International Maritime Organization. And the United Nations moves with glacial rapidity. It's not going to be a short-term project, but we're going to keep pushing at it. But we have also worked with a company to develop an additive to fuel, to diesel fuel, which has been very successful in reducing emissions. We have also worked with biofuel. One of the companies in the port produces biofuel, biodiesel, and we've worked with them. We really are leaders, and you will not find a port in North America as far advanced in environmental technology as we are.
Okay, and finally, just very quickly, you put a roof over the sulfur in North Vancouver. It still appears that it is somewhat open to blowing in the air, especially on the North Vancouver side. Is that completely safe, what's transpiring there in relationship to sulfur being in the air?
The sulfur, it looks like powder, but it's not. If you go up close to it, it's in what they call prills. It looks like a toonie, just about the same size, slightly thicker. It's in little sort of cakes. Yeah. So it actually, it doesn't create dust, and it's done that way so there is no dust, and also so it doesn't go with fire. The dust is what ignites with sulfur. There's no roof on the facility there. They took it away about 10 years ago from the sulfur pile. The sulfur pile, it's not us. It's Vancouver Wharves, which actually is a creature of the provincial government. But it's safe. It's perfectly safe. There's no danger with it.
Well, I could question that, but I won't. I know that you're moving ahead and doing some great things here, so I'll be quiet, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Ferguson and then Councillor Vaughan.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. You mentioned initially you had a map and it showed the different port authorities, the Vancouver Port Authority and the North Fraser. Are you independent authorities or do you work together?
We're independent authorities, but we actually cooperate on an awful lot of files. For instance, right now we're cooperating on this merging the ports into one entity. We like to say that terminals compete and ports cooperate.
And are the environmental standards the same for each of the port authorities?
The environmental standards are the same, but I think we have taken it we are well beyond the standard that the other two ports. North Fraser is a very small port. It only has 6 employees. And I really don't think they have the resources to do as much. But we give them the information that we have. I mean, we work very closely with each other. And Fraserport have always been very interested in the environment and protecting the river for the fish.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, I do have a question or two. I find this subject very interesting. It's at the back of a lot of the growth that we're supposed to be expecting in this part of the world. And the Provincial Minister of Transport, the Honourable Kevin Falcon, mentions in just about all his speeches the advantage, the competitive advantage that Vancouver has as a port relative to the closest ports in the United States because of the geography of the earth, that the crossing from China is shorter. And I'm sure you're not also responsible, say, for the port of Prince Rupert. But I'm just curious, looking at the map in your annual report, the logic would suggest to me that Prince Rupert would be an even shorter journey from China to North America, and I don't know if it's true or not. I can't tell from this. Would you be able to answer that one?
Yeah, for my sins, I used to be the harbour master in Prince Rupert. I was actually the person who worked out that distance, so it is true. Prince Rupert is closer to northern China than
Yes.
Vancouver is, but Vancouver is closer to some of the southern areas.
Yes.
It's a little bit of marketing spin that you're seeing.
So I'm really interested, I don't know if you're at liberty to answer this question, is there any inherent reason, possibly to do with the railway infrastructure or other factors I may not be aware of, why Prince Rupert would not also be sharing in this kind of rapid growth that we're hearing about?
In fact, they are. They're exporting coal again out of Prince Rupert, which they had stopped for quite a while, through Ridley Terminal. They're also exporting a lot more grain than they used to do. That terminal only used to open 3 months a year. It's now open much longer. And they're creating a container terminal in Prince Rupert as we speak. They're building a container terminal. That market will be for Chicago, the Midwest in the United States. Canada, about 95% of Canada's containers come through the Port of Vancouver, and that'll continue.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes, Councillor Clark.
Quick thing, Madam Mayor. Captain Houston, you're maybe aware that on Canada Day for the last 2 years, we've put on a fireworks display off the shores of West Vancouver with the help and assistance of your organization talking about community benefits, specifically Doug Moores, and we appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
We'll be back.
Thank you. I will pass it on to him. And I know you're working with Canada Place Corporation on the production for next year. Canada Place Corporation is a subsidiary of ours, a wholly owned subsidiary. And in fact, actually, Laurie sits on the board of Canada Place Corporation. So I know we're working together with you in that way.
We have the other 2 municipalities on the North Shore
Yes.
on board and
Right.
the City of Vancouver, so there's 5 partners now.
Yeah, actually, we're very pleased to see it back again. I think it's a wonderful thing. I was very disappointed when it stopped.
Thank you.
I'm glad. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We
Thank
appreciate
you.
you being here this evening, and I will
Thank you.
go to Councillor Sutton.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll move that the delegation from Captain G. Houston and Laurie Lindo, Vice President of Corporate Services, read the Vancouver Port Authority regarding toward a sustainable port be received.
Seconded.
Thank you. All those in favor? Motion carries. Thank you very much. Moving to item number 4, then, is the Old Growth Conservancy. Update on the Society. We have Corinne Amber with us this evening.
Good evening. It's been an exciting